Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news. We have obtained what is expected to be a central piece of the government's case against Donald Trump. The actual audio recording of the former president talking as if he's showing a highly classified document on U.S. war plans against Iran with people not cleared to even know it exists, let alone what's in it. In a moment, only on CNN, you will hear what jurors will hear one day. The recording was made 2 summers ago, July 2021, at the former president's club in Bedminster, New Jersey. You will clearly hear the former president as he is speaking to several people. According to the special counsel's indictment, they include a writer working on Mark Meadows' memoir, the publisher, and 2 of Trump's staff members. The president was aware he was being recorded. This is the first time it is being played publicly.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
It started right at the beginning.
Like when Millie's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No,
You are not imagining it. The legal walls are closing in, and the panic radiating from Bedminster is a direct result of a systemic fracture in the defense's narrative. Special Counsel Jack Smith has just unveiled secret audio tapes that have reportedly sent the former president's inner circle into a state of absolute survival instinct. This is not a routine leak. It is a calculated legal maneuver designed to expose a presidency that treated constitutional limits as mere suggestions. For decades, the architect of this system has been the one writing the rules, but today, the tables have turned. Jack Smith is utilizing a technique that reverses the power dynamic, turning the former president's own recorded words into the primary weapon of the prosecution. This creates a devastating information gap between what was promised to the public and what was actually said behind closed doors at the Bedminster estate. The contents of these tapes are being described as a smoking gun that proves intent rather than just a clerical error. Witnesses suggest the audio captures a pattern of impunity where classified national security secrets were discussed in a manner resembling private business deals. This goes beyond a simple document case. It is a stress test of whether the American legal system can still restrain a leader who acts as if he is above the law. We are watching the endgame of a narrative built on the claim of declassification by thought. The special counsel is systematically dismantling the idea that these records were personal, showing that the guardrails of the presidency were bypassed with conscious intent. If you are tired of mainstream media spin, you need to understand that this is a historical moment where institutional paralysis is finally meeting a crate of undeniable evidence. This is not just about one man. It is about what happens when an executive office begins to look like a private revenue stream. When the public loses faith in the guardrails of justice, the entire credit score of the nation's institutions is at risk. The real danger is not just the content of the tapes, but the realization that the system's checks and balances were nearly swallowed by a personal power grab. Tonight, we are walking through the first layer of this crisis, from the post-war alliance of legal norms to a presidency that its own recordings now threaten. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the specific fault lines and bombshells found in these secret Bedminster recordings.
He's downplaying the papers he's holding as articles and magazine stories. Clearly, that does not seem to be the case when you hear this audio and he says these are the papers. And he said, look, this just popped up.
Yeah, and it's significant because these are the papers. That specific quote, that was not included in the transcript that the special counsel included in its indictment. And now it has taken on more significance because he has sort of altered his defense here to say, no, I didn't have a document per se. There were no documents. Now, we reached out to the special counsel's office to ask if this was an intentional omission or a mistake. Special counsel's office declined to comment, but Aaron said, your team's been working all day to try to get our own transcript. I helped them a little bit, and it appeared it took about a dozen iterations before everyone agreed on exactly what they were hearing. So it is most likely just a mistake, and it's unclear at this point if the special counsel will make an amendment to the indictment to include that line.
This is an educational analysis of a presidency under pressure, and the verdict being delivered by the special counsel is one of total accountability. The revelation of these secret Bedminster tapes represents a masterclass in the psychological information gap, creating a stark contrast between the former president's public narrative and his private admissions. For months, the American public has been fed a story of absolute declassification authority and personal records, but these recordings act as a smoking gun that shatters that carefully constructed image. We are no longer looking at a simple case of misplaced files. We are witnessing a kleptocracy pattern where the highest office in the land was allegedly treated like a private business deal. This is the exact moment where the social proof of a leader's public defense runs headfirst into the cold reality of their own recorded voice. Special Counsel Jack Smith is not just presenting evidence, he is prying open a vault of secrecy that was supposed to remain hidden forever. These tapes provide the emotional twist that changes the trajectory of the entire trial from speculative to definitive. In these recordings, the former president is reportedly heard acknowledging the classified status of the documents in his possession, effectively bypassing the legal guardrails designed to protect national security. This is the secret of time where the special counsel proves that the intent was never about a mistake, but about a conscious decision to operate outside the law. When a presidency starts to look like a private revenue stream, the institutional credit score of the nation begins to plummet. The special counsel is exploiting the pain avoidance principle, forcing the defense to confront the terrifying reality that their previous arguments are now obsolete. This isn't just about a golf club in New Jersey. It is about the sovereignty of the executive office being traded for personal impunity. The trigger language of these recordings reveals a mindset that sees the rules as weapons and information as a private currency. We are currently observing the stress test of the American democratic system. If the institutions designed to police a leader fail, the result is a systemic fracture and the loss of global trust. The Bedminster tapes act as a verdict on what the executive branch becomes when personal power overrides institutional duty. Every word caught on that tape is a physical sign of internal decay within the halls of power, mirroring the signs of aging or degradation often analyzed in behavioral psychology. If you are tired of mainstream coverage that focuses on the drama without explaining the systemic stakes, you must understand the next-level strategy Jack Smith is employing. He is moving the needle from what happened to how the law was actively subverted. This transition from a public defense to a private confession is the door of truth that the defense team is desperately trying to close. The real danger here is not just the legal penalty, but the exposure of a power model that mirrors the very regimes America used to sanction. The special counsel's move is a calculated coup de grace to the narrative of accidental retention. By unveiling these tapes now, Smith is triggering a panic that is deeply rooted in the survival instinct of those involved. Every revelation serves as a mini cliffhanger, building a case that is impossible for the public and the jury to ignore. We are watching a historical shift where a sanctions architect is finally being held to the same standards as those they once targeted. The unveiling of the Bedminster recordings represents a systemic fracture in the defense's long-standing narrative that these documents were merely personal items. We are no longer discussing a simple administrative error or a disagreement over filing systems. We are witnessing a kleptocracy pattern where the highest office in the land was allegedly utilized as a private revenue stream. Special Counsel Jack Smith is employing a three-layer evidence structure, moving from the initial shock of the tapes to a deeper connection regarding the intent of the former president. This technique creates a devastating information gap between what the public was told and the cold, recorded reality of what occurred behind closed doors. When a presidency begins to mirror a rogue regime by treating classified national security secrets as personal currency, the institutional guardrails are forced to react. These tapes serve as a verdict on a power model that assumes the rules are merely weapons to be used against enemies. The panic radiating from the Trump inner circle is a classic survival instinct response to the realization that the special counsel has successfully bypassed the usual layers of secrecy. By using the subject's own recorded voice, the prosecution has successfully reversed the issue, turning a narrative of victimhood into a record of confession. Jack Smith is not just presenting audio, he is painting a picture of a leader who believed they were beyond the reach of institutional accountability. The trigger language captured on these tapes reportedly shows a blatant disregard for the checks and balances that anchor the democratic world. This is the endgame where a sanctioned presidency faces the consequences of treating the presidency as a private business deal. If the institutions of the United States cannot police their own leader, then the credit score of the entire nation's legal system is at risk of permanent devaluation. This crisis has triggered a Five Eyes fracture in the realm of trust, as the recordings allegedly reveal highly sensitive information being discussed with individuals who lacked any legal right to hear it. The special counsel is exploiting the pain avoidance principle, forcing the defense to realize that their previous excuses have been burned by this new evidence. This isn't just a news story, it is a political thriller where the guardrails of democracy are finally being tested against a power grab of unprecedented proportions. Every revelation acts as a mini cliffhanger, keeping the public engaged in a narrative of total accountability. The special counsel's strategy is to move the conversation from what was taken to why it was kept, exposing a pattern of executive overreach that mirrors authoritarian models. By unveiling the smoking gun of the Bedminster tapes, Smith has effectively read the mind of the defense and prepared a counterstrike that they cannot ignore. We are watching a historical shift where a sanctions architect is now the one facing the verdict of the law. The real danger is that the public may lose faith in the door of truth if this level of corruption is not met with a clear and decisive legal response. The unveiling of these secret recordings acts as a dramatic, emotional twist for the defense, revealing a smoking gun that effectively shatters the long-standing narrative of accidental document retention. We are now entering the endgame, where a presidency under scrutiny faces the cold, recorded reality of its own private admissions. This is no longer just a legal dispute over administrative records. It is a stress test for the entire American legal system and its ability to hold the highest office accountable. Special Counsel Jack Smith is successfully triggering the survival instinct of the inner circle, forcing them to confront a terrifying reality where their previous legal arguments have become obsolete overnight. When the highest office is perceived to be utilized like a private revenue stream, the institutional credit score of the entire nation begins to plummet. The special counsel is prying open a vault of secrecy that was designed to remain hidden from both the public and the oversight of the law. These tapes provide a verdict on a power model that assumes the rules of the state are merely weapons to be used for personal gain. The current state of panic is a classic behavioral response to the realization that the special counsel has successfully bypassed every traditional layer of institutional secrecy. This escalating crisis has triggered a fracture in the realm of intelligence and trust, mirroring the way allies might react to a security breach. The recordings allegedly show highly sensitive national security information being discussed as if it were personal currency, moving the case into a realm of kleptocracy and institutional decay. The special counsel is employing a three-layer evidence structure, methodically moving from the initial shock of the audio to a deep systemic proof of criminal intent. This creates a massive information gap that the defense can no longer bridge with public rhetoric or political spin. We are currently watching the next level of legal escalation, where shocking truths are unveiled in a manner that forces a total referendum on governance. This is the door of truth opening, revealing an internal decay within a system that allowed personal impunity to override the established rule of law. Every word caught on tape serves as a physical sign of a deeper systemic failure that the public was never meant to see. If the institutional guardrails cannot hold under this pressure, the result is a total systemic fracture of the democratic order. The special counsel's strategic objective is to shift the focus from what was kept to exactly how the law was actively and consciously subverted. By reading the mind of the defense through their own private recordings, Smith has prepared a counterstrike that leaves no room for evasion. We are witnessing a historical reversal where a former leader, once the architect of sanctions, is now the one facing the verdict of a legal system they once commanded. The real danger remains the potential for the public to lose all faith in the checks and balances that anchor the democratic world. The unveiling of the Bedminster tapes has pushed the political establishment into a systemic fracture that goes far beyond a typical legal defense. This is the endgame where the Republican leadership is forced into an impossible choice: remain loyal to a leader now caught on tape discussing sensitive secrets, or protect the institutional guardrails of the democratic world. For years, the party has operated under a survival instinct that prioritized loyalty over institutional integrity, but as Jack Smith pries open this vault of secrecy, the credit score of the entire party's political future is being called into question. This isn't just a political drama, it is a referendum on governance that determines if the party still believes in the rule of law. Inside the halls of power, the reaction to these recordings mirrors the Five Eyes fracture seen in the intelligence community. When a presidency begins to look like a rogue regime that treats national security as a private business deal, the institutional paralysis that once protected the leader begins to dissolve. The special counsel is utilizing the pain avoidance principle, making it increasingly difficult for moderate members of the GOP to defend the narrative of declassification by thought when the audio evidence suggests a conscious power grab. This transition from what was kept to the how and why it was concealed is the next-level strategy that is currently dismantling the defense's credibility. This crisis is no longer confined to the courtroom. It is spilling over into the global stage where the sovereignty of American intelligence is being tested. The Bedminster recordings allegedly reveal a disregard for the checks and balances that allies depend on, leading to a survival move where international partners may restrict information sharing with Washington. Jack Smith has effectively read the mind of the defense, exposing the kleptocracy pattern that treated the nation's highest secrets as a personal revenue stream. Every minute of that tape serves as a physical sign of a system that allowed personal impunity to override the established guardrails of the presidency. As we move deeper into this political thriller, the market reaction is becoming a verdict on the stability of the nation's governance. Investors and global leaders are watching to see if the American legal system can still police its own sanctions architect, or if the institutional decay has reached a point of no return. The special counsel is creating a curiosity loop that keeps the public's attention fixed on the bombshells yet to be revealed, ensuring that the smoking gun of Bedminster remains at the center of the national conversation. If the GOP fails to navigate this impossible choice, they risk being defined by the very rogue behavior they once condemned in others. The real danger here is not just the content of the tapes, but the realization that the institutional guardrails were nearly swallowed by a personal power grab. Jack Smith's unveiling of this evidence acts as a door of truth, forcing a confrontation between a narrative of innocence and the cold reality of a recorded confession. We are witnessing the endgame of a presidency that treated constitutional limits as mere suggestions. The current panic is a classic behavioral response to the exposure of a power model that no longer aligns with the values of a transparent democracy. The unveiling of the secret Bedminster tapes has triggered a reaction that extends far beyond the courtroom, acting as a silent but devastating referendum on governance for the global markets. We are no longer observing a mere legal battle. We are watching a systemic fracture where the institutional credit score of the United States is being repriced in real time by investors and world leaders. As Special Counsel Jack Smith pries open this vault of secrecy, the world is forced to confront a terrifying question. What happens to the stability of a superpower when its highest office is treated like a private business deal? This is the endgame of institutional impunity, where the guardrails designed to protect national sovereignty are shown to have been bypassed with conscious intent. For nearly a century, Washington was the undisputed sanctions architect, the global authority that defined rogue regimes and punished kleptocracy abroad. But as the content of these recordings is unveiled, the tables have turned, and the architect has become the target. This reversal of roles is a masterclass in the psychological information gap, creating a shock that shatters the image of America as the trusted anchor of the democratic world. The markets are reacting to the physical signs of an internal decay, realizing that the checks and balances were nearly swallowed by a personal power grab. If the legal system cannot police its own leader, the credit score of the entire nation's stability begins to plummet. This crisis has already begun to cause a Five Eyes fracture, as allies in the intelligence community initiate their own survival moves. When secret tapes allegedly reveal a leader discussing classified defense information as if it were personal currency, the post-war alliance is forced to reevaluate its trust in Washington. Jack Smith is methodically exposing this kleptocracy pattern, showing that the intelligence-sharing agreements that protect the West were treated as a private revenue stream. The special counsel is moving from the what to the how, proving that the guardrails of democracy were not just tested, but actively ignored in favor of personal gain. The survival instinct of the global financial system is now kicking in, as futures slip and yields fluctuate in response to the institutional paralysis seen in D.C. This is a political thriller where the stakes are the economic sovereignty of the nation itself. Special Counsel Jack Smith has successfully created a curiosity loop that keeps the world's attention fixed on the bombshells found at Bedminster, ensuring that the smoking gun remains impossible to ignore. If the institutional guardrails cannot hold under the weight of this evidence, The result is a total collapse of the Western alliance as we know it. The real danger here is the realization that a corrupt presidency can make the entire alliance system look unreliable. These tapes serve as a verdict on what happens when a leader believes they are the law, rather than subject to it. Jack Smith's unveiling of this evidence acts as the door of truth, forcing the public to look past the political spin and see the hidden risks that have been riling the system for years. We are witnessing the endgame of a narrative built on impunity, and the market reaction is merely the first wave of a much larger institutional reckoning. The unveiling of the Jack Smith Bedminster tapes has pushed the Republican establishment into a profound, systemic fracture. This is no longer a simple matter of defending a political ally. It has become an impossible choice for GOP leadership. They are now forced to decide, do they stay with the leader who is caught on tape, or do they stay with the alliance of law and institutional guardrails that anchor the democratic world? For many, the survival instinct is kicking in as they realize the credit score of the party's future is being devalued by every second of recorded evidence. We are witnessing a referendum on governance that forces the party to confront the reality of institutional decay. Inside the halls of Congress, GOP senators are reportedly issuing ambiguous statements as they desperately search for an exit ramp. They are caught between the intense pressure of their political base and the undeniable verdict being delivered by the special counsel's evidence. This situation mirrors a political thriller where the protagonist must decide if they will sink with a sanctioned presidency or attempt to salvage the guardrails of the system. The question being asked in the quiet corridors of power is haunting. How do you run a party when your standard-bearer has been exposed by the very rules you claim to lead? The Bedminster tapes have successfully bypassed the institutional paralysis that previously shielded the former president from accountability. Special Counsel Jack Smith is employing a next-level strategy that moves beyond the what was taken to how the party itself is becoming entangled in the kleptocracy pattern. This isn't just about legal defense anymore. It is about the sovereignty of the party's own platform. The survival move for many is to distance themselves quietly, yet the gravity of the smoking gun makes total detachment nearly impossible. This crisis is a stress test of the entire idea that the party can lead the free world while its leader looks more and more like the figures the nation used to sanction together. Every revelation acts as a mini cliffhanger that shatters the social proof of the party's moral authority. If the GOP cannot find a way to police its own power grab, they risk letting the entire Western alliance of their political legacy collapse. The real danger is that a corrupt presidency makes the entire democratic system look unreliable to the very voters it needs to survive. As we approach the endgame, the choice becomes binary: protect the man or protect the institutional guardrails. The special counsel has opened the door of truth, and the GOP is finding that the vault of secrecy they relied on has been completely compromised. The market reaction of political support is showing signs of deep instability, suggesting that the institutional credit score of the party is at a breaking point. This is the night the allies within the party must decide if they will continue to pretend everything is fine, or if they will finally acknowledge the systemic fracture staring them in the face. The final question facing the nation tonight is not simply whether a single leader can survive the unveiling of the Bedminster tapes, but whether the very idea of the United States as the trusted anchor of the democratic world can survive this unprecedented systemic fracture. We are witnessing the endgame of a political model that treated institutional guardrails as optional and national security as a private business deal. Jack Smith's unveiling of this smoking gun is the ultimate stress test for the American legal system. A definitive moment that asks if our checks and balances can still restrain a leader who acts with total impunity. If these institutions fail to provide a clear verdict, the institutional credit score of our republic risks being permanently downgraded in the eyes of the global alliance. This is the night the vault of secrecy has finally been pried open, revealing a pattern of executive overreach that mirrors the very rogue regimes we once sanctioned together. The current systemic fracture is not just a legal drama. It is a referendum on governance that will determine the rules of the road for future generations. Special Counsel Jack Smith has effectively moved the narrative from what documents were kept to how the law was actively subverted, exposing a kleptocracy pattern that attempted to turn the highest office into a private revenue stream. Every minute of audio caught on those tapes serves as a physical sign of a system that allowed personal pride to override the established rule of law. As we conclude this investigation, it is clear that the survival instinct of our democratic institutions is currently at war with a narrative built on institutional paralysis. The special counsel's strategy has been to create a curiosity loop that forces the public to confront the bombshells of Bedminster, ensuring that the smoking gun cannot be hidden behind political spin. This is a historical shift where the sanctions architect has become the subject of the sanction, a reversal that provides a verdict on the kind of country we are becoming. If the Western alliance is to survive this presidency, the institutional guardrails must be proven to be functional and unbreakable. If you are tired of coverage that just screams chaos without explaining what is actually breaking in our system, this is your space. Tell me in the comments, which part of this Bedminster revelation shocked you the most? The Allies' verdict on our stability, the breach of trust in intelligence sharing, or the market's reaction to this institutional decay? Do you believe our institutions have the strength to police their own leader? Or have the guardrails been bent beyond repair? Share this analysis not just as another political video, but as a map for understanding how quickly a democracy can start to look like the regimes it was designed to contain. Disclaimer and transparency. This video is an opinion and educational analysis of public media reports and historical patterns. It does not promote hatred or discrimination and is intended to illustrate broader issues about democratic erosion and the risks of miscalculation in foreign policy. The goal of this channel is to help you understand how narratives about strong leadership and national interest are constructed, so we do not sleepwalk into a world where our alliances collapse without the public understanding why.